Remember the applied axiological definition of good. Something is good to the degree it has all the attributes required to fulfill its purpose. Well, let's apply this definition to each dimension within the hierarchy of value. Based on the idea that everything exists for some purpose greater than itself, what's the purpose of each dimension, and how does one dimension create value in the next? The systemic dimension consists of our ideas and goals, rules and policies, plans and strategies, and all the formal and informal agreements and expectations that arise from them. The purpose of these systemic things is to provide order, structure, and guidance for our decisions and actions so we can make good use of extrinsic things. Notice the word good. Good use means using things in a way that fulfills a purpose, ultimately a greater purpose. So what is the greater purpose of making good use of extrinsic things? Our functional or consumable resources, tools and equipment, medicines, food, energy, and so on. Even our actions are extrinsic, so what might be the ultimate purpose of taking good actions, of doing good things and doing good things well? When we fail to use our assets well, value creation is limited or lost. When we do use them well, value increases. Ultimately, the purpose of extrinsic value is to create and support greater intrinsic value, quality of life. The definition of good contains an axiom that is easy to miss. If something fails to fulfill its purpose, it simply means that it does not yet have all the attributes required. So when quality of life is diminished or destroyed, it means that something is missing or malfunctioning in the extrinsic dimension. And when the extrinsic dimension is missing or malfunctioning, it may mean that something in the systemic dimension is off or missing. Understanding the hierarchy of value through the lens of this hierarchy of purpose is a powerful tool for problem solving. Now let's go a little deeper. Science doesn't care about our intentions, but it certainly helps to have good ones, meaning the intentions to align our thoughts, choices, and actions with the hierarchy so we can create greater value in our lives. For example, when establishing systemic rules and policies, the proper good intention is to design them to have all the attributes required to optimize the use of extrinsic resources, and to do so in such a way as to uphold and elevate the intrinsic value, dignity, and well-being of all stakeholders at the intrinsic level. Any purpose or attribute that undermines this order of priority is a predictable value inversion and likely to undermine value creation. Now, there is still one more dimension to consider in terms of purpose. What is the purpose of intrinsic things like love, passion, joy, desire, and inspiration? What's the reason these things feel so good emotionally, spiritually, and even physically? Neuroscience suggests that when we feel good, we tend to think better. And what is the meaning, purpose, or reason for having the feelings we have when we see or experience pain, suffering, frustration, or failure, our own or others? All these emotional signals are intrinsic to who we are as human beings, and they clearly affect our quality of life. But is that all? Maybe there is something else going on, something that is literally existential to life itself. Think about it. When you feel inspired by an idea, what happens? Sometimes your inspiration becomes an aspiration, and you start to strategize how to turn it into reality. Like an idea for a better way to do something or to build something. Maybe it's a creative arts idea or even a change of career idea. Whatever it is, it brings us right back to the systemic dimension, where we make a plan, and as we execute the plan, we enter into the extrinsic dimension of doing and producing. Hopefully and ideally, at some point, the end result is an intrinsic quality of life improvement for all who are impacted. This perpetual hierarchical process of systemic things serving to improve our use of extrinsic things that lead to greater value in the intrinsic quality of life domain is the foundry of innovation, the source of meaningful betterment, continuous improvement, and ever-increasing abundance, driven by the natural human desire to make a difference. Seen through the lens of purpose, the hierarchy of value becomes a compass, a decision tool, and a measuring stick. It helps us decide what's worth doing, how to do it, and why it matters, not just for productivity, but for people and for life itself. When we live and lead by axiological principles, we don't just create more value. We create the right kind of value, the kind that lasts. Axiology and the hierarchy of value don't just apply to the human race. They apply to everything, Everything from a microscopic plant or animal to the entire ecosphere of planet Earth can be evaluated and better understood through the science of formal axiology. A plant, just like the Earth itself, has systems that serve to keep it functioning, and it needs to function well to survive, thrive, and bear fruit. And like it or not, we humans are completely dependent on the non-human ecosystem for our survival and well-being. When we allow the pursuit of systemic power and profits to supersede the well-being of the planet and the well-being of all people and all things that contribute to that well-being, we're only contributing to our own suffering and potential demise. This is not a moral or philosophical statement, it is a fact demonstrated by history and now proven by science. However, science also tells us that when we individually and collectively honor the hierarchy of value, value multiplies for all. To understand, internalize, and actualize these principles in one's own life is the heart of what we call axiological intelligence. Defined as the capacity to discern what truly matters in any moment, and then to conscientiously meet the moment with wisdom and grace. Axiological intelligence is the one intelligence that gives all other intelligences real value, meaningful purpose, and a compass that turns intelligence into wisdom. And now that you know what truly matters most, what's left is to develop your ability to conscientiously meet every moment that matters with wisdom and grace. And that is where another of Dr. Hartman's contributions, the Hartman Value Profile Assessment, comes in. It's not a personality or behavioral assessment. It's a way to quickly and accurately measure how well your current thinking aligns with the hierarchy of value, giving you important insights that will help you think better and be better, so you can live, lead, and love better. Now that's a purpose worth pursuing.